Hello, everybody. My name is Fumilola, double board certified pharmacist and mom of three. That's too strange for me to say because I'm making this video while I'm still pregnant. Today, I'm wearing my apropos anti glasses because I bring you apropos news that nobody asked me for, but I'm basically still going to talk about it anyway. So, this video is you all know I'm on a self journey, I'm discovering myself. So, this video is about growth and change of mindset. I think that's what I'll say the video is about. Okay. I wrote down a few points that I wanted to just gist about basically. So this video might be lengthy because you guys know I like talking. I've been trying to keep my video short, but sometimes I just like talking. So please, you can put this on times 1.5 speed as long as you see what I want to say. Um, so the things in life that you thought you couldn't be, like one me myself. Never say never because then you are never like never before. So, first of all, first thing I want to talk about is falling in love. I'll use an example of someone on social media that's very popular. I remember the first day that I saw that she said she got married and stuff, and everybody was like, "Oh, she's not gonna change, not gonna change." I'm like, "No, they never love you before." I remember having this conversation with my friend. I said, "You get the kind of love where they go love you, you go take." And I'm really happy for her that as time has gone on, she has her partner has been loving her in ways that I don't think even she knew someone could love another person. And I see the softness come out of her and everything. I'm sure that if anybody had told her before, or maybe when she's seeing some people doing loving, and she's wondering why they are so sappy. And but that's one of the things. Like if you find someone who genuinely cares for you, it might take you a while to be able to let go and let them care for you and show you that love because some more trust issues, yappa, right? But then you would realize that real somebody like if they love you. I always say they never love you. Now why you think say love no dey? If they love you, you go no say love dey. You know. So getting treated right by a man in a relationship or marrying a good intentional man, you start to realize that you can love somebody more than you love yourself. You start to realize that you can pray for them more than you pray for yourself. You can wish them better than you wish yourself. Like the more they point to you, the more you want to point to them. And if you haven't experienced this kind of love, you think that the people that are experiencing it, they are fools or something, there's definitely wrong with them. Which like is a growth that I have come into. So and I realize that it is a privileged position to be in. Sometimes when people are sharing how, you cannot allow your husband to, you need to blah blah blah. You also need to understand where they're coming from, the trauma that they're dealing with, and understand your own situation and your own privileges, basically, and handle your case accordingly. My second point is about how the best parents are people who don't have kids. This one we're all learning because we're all on the job. People who judge other people's parenting, and say, "Oh, that kid is spoiled." I just want to assure you that your children are also spoiled. They're just spoiled in a different way from the other people's children. We all spoil our kids. It's just that we spoil them in different ways than others. Some people spoil their children with material things. Some people spoil their children by not correcting them. Some people spoil their children, but everybody's spoiling their kids one way or the other, which is why marriage is so hard because you marry someone and you're married and you realize that this thing that was never allowed in my house is free for all, my friend's house or my husband's house. I remember one of my friends said when they were growing up, my mom used to tell the house helps never to restrict them from taking meat from the pot, so they would just throw it into the pot, pick meat out and eat it. In my house, some mother was stealing meat from pot too, but you see, in their house it was normal. If you came to my house and you did that, my mom would consider you spoiled and untrained. So, like, everybody's kids are spoiled. It just depends on the angle you are spoiling them from. So, another thing that I have grown to understand, and this is not me condoning anything by the way, is that toxicity is easier to walk away from in theory and in practical. There are a lot of people who find themselves in toxic situations that they never thought they'd be in, and you find them still staying there. And until you are either close to the situation or you are in the situation yourself, you don't understand it. You're like, why is this person still there? Why haven't they left? I mean, blah blah blah. So I think that's another thing that I have grown into, not judging people not leaving their toxic situations just yet, or still finding a way to get out of it, right? Another lesson that I want to talk about is how we all think that we can take something off. I'm going to use Nikeji as an example here. I remember that Nikeji built her business and her money on putting her nose in other people's business and basically blackmailing other people out of their secrets and digging up people's secrets. But the moment it turned on her, I felt so bad for her because I could see she shalayed. She shalayed and explained herself. That's what shalayed means. And it just makes you realize that you may be able to dish it, but you may not be able to take it. And that's another growth that I have come into. I mean, guys, self discovery and self journey. So please tolerate me. Um, Another point is our moms and our aunties, they were right about everything that had to do with marriage. It's just the way they said it that was kind of, they came at us from an angle of save the men and blah, blah, blah. No, but a lot of things that they said actually are true. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. I hate to say this, but the women of old got that manipulation thing down to an art. And a lot of us who are married are still at it because whether you're doing it outrightly or you're doing it codedly or sub whateverly, you're still doing it. We call it whatever we want. We call it making peace. We call it stooping to conquer. We call it a lot of stuff. But we all know that we're we're at it basically, doing what our aunties and our mommies did to make their marriages work. And like someone once said, if people whose marriages are working come out to tell you what they're doing, you're gonna call the women pick me's and the men simps. Because sometimes when you love someone, you make concessions for them. Concessions that you never thought you'd make for anyone in your life. Even you when you're thinking like, I'm doing this for this person, is it? Yeah, that's another thing that I'm learning. Another thing that I have learned is that as you grow older, angles tend to change for you. I'll use a typical example here. For a lot of us when we were younger, this wicked stepmom was a cliche story that we all, listen to and watch from Cinderella. But the older that you grow and then you get married and you come to understand um how hard it is to raise other people's kids, especially second wives. Like if your first wife and then let's say your mom was a second wife or whatever, when you're growing up, you look at that first wife as a bad person who didn't allow your family to thrive. When you grow older and then you marry your husband and you guys struggle together and all that, and then he goes and brings another wife, you start to empathize better. You understand, you know. I mean, you're not going to be rubbing the children of the other person on the head because these are constant reminders of things that happen in your life. Yes, you can hate your husband, but you can also hate the children and the second wife. No, it's not hard or fast rule. But that's what I'm saying is the angles change, right? And as we grow older, our angles change all the time. And it changes our perspective, you know? So, following that, I'm going to say we are all prejudiced and biased, and nobody is 100% rational 100% of the time. It all depends on the angle and where it comes at us from. Another point, nobody appreciates good health like a person that was healthy 5 minutes ago. Like, if you want to know how much you appreciate good health, have a headache. That's when you realize how well you were 5 minutes before you had the headache. I guess this point is no matter what is going on with you, your current health state is somebody else's prayer point. As you are doing, oh God, I just want this headache to go. Somebody is doing, God, please, even if it's just headache, take away this horrible sickness. So, and then as you grow older, you start realizing that staying in your own home is the most underrated thing ever. Ah, God. Like, except if you didn't live life as a young person, sure, maybe you were inside all the time. When you're older, you want to be on the outside. But usually, if you did some outside runs when you were younger, the older you get, you're like, oh my God, your bed is so peaceful, your home is so peaceful. You never want to go out. You become a homebody, you know? This next one I'm going to say is that you are as good or as bad as the hand that you have been dealt in life. When you're growing up, sometimes you feel, oh, I can never be what that person is and better than that person. Bro, you are not better than that person. Your circumstances in life have just helped you to be who you are today. So don't judge people. I guess that's what I'm saying with this point. I don't judge people. Grant grace. Understand that you're like one of my friends and I used to say, the fact that you beat a drum and it sounds doesn't mean that the other person is not beating their drum as well. It's just not sounding as loud as yours. Like if you're beating the drum and it's yielding and giving you the results you're looking for, be grateful. understand that the hand that you've been dealt in life is very, very plays a big role in that. And that was not in your control, by the way. So, you need to be grateful. This point that I'm about to say was something that I grew up to know. When you're the first person who does something in your circle or in your family, you have to be very careful not to not to not to trade your own important uh the things that are important to you in the bid to be inclusive to everyone. So I'll give an example. I remember that my kid, he had TV time and everything, and a friend was staying with us, and when she first came, she would watch TV until he came back from school, and then he would come and just sit with her after school and watch the TV. First of all, I didn't want him watching TV after school, and second of all, not everything that adults watch, children watch, and all that. So I had to tell her that, why don't you take your watching into your room and all that. And I remember that my husband was so upset, and she was upset as well. And I remember telling my husband that I will not compromise the standards I want to use. My child is the most important. I can apologize to an adult, but I will not do what a lot of parents in our time did when they tell the child, "Hey, you go upstairs." No, 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 no. The child was what, 3? He would want to sneak in, and so I would take away the thing that is the distraction away from the child because he's unable to control himself at the time, while still telling him you're not allowed to watch TV. But I'm not going to put the TV in front of him and say you're not allowed to watch TV and then leave the TV on. He's 3. Even adults don't have that control. I also remember one time one of my friends came to the house. So the rule in my house is if we're going to watch general TV, we have to watch what the youngest person can watch. That's the rule in the house. If you don't like it, then I mean you can walk out. It's okay with me. And I remember one of my friends was saying, I should send the children upstairs. I'm like, why? This is their home. Like, I'm not going to do that. And I told her, I said, if you had walked into this house and my children were throwing F bombs around, you would be the same person that would go out and say, have you seen Mimi's children? The sense of children. The reason why they're not doing this because I'm not exposing them to that content. I said, this is how they don't get exposed. When is their bedtime? Adults can watch whatever they want. I said, but it's 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Why would I send them upstairs? This is their home, you know? So sometimes when you're the first person to have like something, you're big to be inclusive, you throw away your values, you need to be careful about that. Be very careful about that because the people you are throwing away your values, when it is their turn, they're not going to reciprocate. They're going to raise their kids the way they want to raise their kids. It's not going to be about you. And nobody asked you for that sacrifice, by the way. So you're going to feel bad about it. When you see a woman who doesn't have masculine energy, it's because they've not cared or loved her, or the person that she's with is not in his masculine energy. So so if you want a feminine woman, you have to be a masculine man. I guess that's what I'm saying. If you want a woman to be in a feminine era, to be soft, to be yielding, Oga, enter into your masculinity too. Be there, protect, provide, secure, support, all those things. Some people seem like oxygen, like you can't do without them, when you guys are together, blah, blah, blah. And like all of a sudden, they just disappear or they do something to hurt your feelings. And you realize that they're not oxygen after all. Yeah, sometimes you're that person, so it can be the badly behaved person. I'm just saying that some people are badly behaved, and it bears no onus on you as a person to regulate their behavior. That's another thing that I have learned, and I do try to self-reflect. If a friendship goes bad or goes the other way, I will self-reflect and try to see if I'm the one that did something wrong. Like I had a friend that was so close, and everything was going on so well, and then she moved from this province to another province, and I have been trying to reach her, messaged her, emailed her even, and she didn't reply me. You know what? After a while, I let it go. It hurts. It hurts. After a while, I just let it go. I think maybe I did something to hurt her, or maybe she's going through something. But yeah, it was a very painful, and I recognize that maybe I did something. I don't know, but it's also a possibility. Is what I'm trying to say. So that's growth, right? Acknowledging that I might have been the person that messed up that relationship. Another thing that I have learned is when you're a stable person, a person who shows up for everyone else. So, like when you're someone who shows up for everyone, right? Two things usually happen. The day that you're unable to pick up that slack, nobody cuts you any slack. You find that unreliable people are cut slack all the time. You're like, oh yeah, this person finally showed up today, and everybody's clapping for them. No, you that you show up permanently for everyone and everything. The day that you are unable to, is like a bad person. Like, people will judge you harshly, and you may also be the one judging people harshly, by the way. All these things I'm saying can go both ways. I guess what I'm actually trying to say is that the better you are as a person, the less grace people grant you, and that's something that just happens in life. You just have to take it that way. Sorry about what the background is. My family is family. Um, when you're dealing with money and relationships, I think this is going to be my last or semi-last one. When you're dealing with money and relationships, especially with friends, family, you need to make sure that you have a written contract so that you don't ruin that relationship or that friendship. And I would say that before you go into a money contract with someone who is your friend, before you go into a money contract with someone who's your friend, I will ask you to have tested them with little bits amount of money or businesses before so that you don't ruin that friendship. Like you need to decide which one is more important to you because money does ruin friendships and it ruins relationships. So before you go into thing with someone, make sure you have a written contract, make sure you guys are good and you already know how their relationship is with money.